the template?
In the instructions?
Template, so that probably would be a good idea, yes.
I feel like there are instructions somewhere.
Being a good year.
I'd like to call to order this.
In the instructions? That probably would be a good. There we go.
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Legislative Committee for the City of Salem for February 13th, 2026. I'm Julie Hoy, the mayor.
Vanessa Nordyke, Ward 7.
Dr. Irvin M. Brown, Ward 5.
Deanna Gwynn, Ward 4.
Okay, Linda's here as an alternate.
Linda's here.
Linda Nishioka, alternate, Ward 2.
Thank you. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? We'll catch everybody through the beautiful meeting. Thank you. All right, federal budget update, Mark Dietrich and Terry Hubert.
Hello. I think you just, I'm sorry, this is Terry. I'm in a place that's very loud. I think that you just called for the federal budget update.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So we are at a strange place. The entire government is funded except for Department of Homeland Security. Their funding runs out today, and there appears to be no effort to try to fix that. However, the good news is that really doesn't impact the city very much, so we're in the clear. But the very, very good news is that the president has finally signed the bill that contained our $500,000 for our redundant energy supplies for the elderly housing complex. So that's very exciting. We're very happy about that and glad to be able to deliver that. It will probably take a couple of months for that to work its way through the bureaucracy before we're able to actually access the dollars, but it's secure, it's ours, and we're able to start moving forward with spending that money now. So it's a short but sweet update from me today.
Thank you, Terry. I wonder, Jessica, do you want to talk about it's 500,000 and for which property and all that?
Yay, happy to. So we have two senior projects, Southview Terrace over on Fairview Avenue and Inglewood West on Park Avenue. Those two senior complexes make up 114 units. And one of the biggest issues that we've had is when power goes out, the seniors are unable to access life-saving services because they can't get up and down the elevator. They have no resiliency hub. They have no place to charge their medical equipment. They have all this stuff. So we've built into our renovation project 2 generators, which can work and operate in the absence of power, and will provide a resiliency hub for the seniors to gather, emergency lighting, and those electrical upgrades that are needed for that. So this is going to add a generator to both of those projects and support the funding. So we've been waiting for a couple of years on this, and we were successful. And so I'm so excited they wanted to make the contribution, and the seniors are going to be elated when I tell them at our next meeting, because they have been hoping for the support. So now we just have to get OHCS to fund our project. That's the last step.
And that's through the appropriations process.
Yes.
And we are actively pursuing appropriations for the 2 federal priorities that are in the council approved policy agenda for federal activities. So that is Willamette Valley Communications Center. We're looking at a design and feasibility, and there's a lot of other big words, but we're looking for the best way to position it for the future, outside of a leased facility, the glazing on a street level. And then the other priority is South River Road slide mitigation. And there we are looking for something innovative that takes care of the geotechnical character of that hillside to avoid a sliding down into River Road and possibly the railroad tracks. And that project is also one that we're in active conversation with Wyden, Merkley, and Salinas' offices. So those priorities we're going to get moving forward for us. If there aren't any other questions on the federal side, yay. Thank you, Jessica. I think we can move to the state, and maybe we can stay in that funding priorities. Because that's also good news.
Let's hope. All right. Thanks, Courtney. Madam Mayor, members of council. Nice to see everybody. I probably won't be as brief as Terry, but lots of questions about the calendar, as everybody knows. We had to have a work session posted in the first chamber by last Monday. We had to have a work session in the first chamber by next Monday for bills to remain alive. We've got second chamber deadlines for work sessions next week on the 20th. And then that second chamber deadline is Thursday, the 26th. And constitutionally, they have to be out of there by Sunday, March 8th. So obviously a super compressed timeline. I think you guys know this. There were 298 bills introduced. 96 bills were assigned to our staff here at Salem. We've been looking through that. The funding priorities, to Courtney's point. There's each legislative, there has been changes in how people submit, and there's been limitations added to funding requests. Each legislator was allowed 2 Christmas tree ornament bills, so to speak. Representative Anderson on our behalf submitted a $2.75 million ask for safe, clean, and healthy capital city. Representative Mannix submitted a $1.35 million request for the airport and emergency capabilities with the terminal master plan. We then had today we have a Ways and Means capital construction hearing, House Bill 5701 and 5702. The mayor will be testifying at that. We've asked for support letters and have received from most of these folks for both priorities. So we're excited about that. Even have a request into the Attorney General, Ray Field. Courtney's compiling all those, having those ready to go today. I have recently met with all the Salem delegations, Senator Patterson, Representative Anderson, Representative Evans, Representative Munoz, Representative Mannix and Michelle in his office. Representative Deal met yesterday with the majority leader, Casey Jama, in the Senate, and then met with Bob Livingston, the governor's legislative director. We have a rescheduling process with Senator Thatcher, but we're moving along with all our business. So that's what we've been up to. Courtney, I'll pass it back over to you. Yes.
The Anderson Safety Clean Bill, do you have the bill number for that? I'd like to look it up.
Yeah, it'll be in capital construction. So
So it's in capital
5701.
5701.
Correct.
And that's can you tell me just very briefly what that is regarding?
Yeah.
That's public safety funding again?
Yeah, so capital construction usually ties to some bit of capital, right? And then when the Christmas tree comes down, with these new restrictions on how things work, we have to put something that's physical in there. So we've done that. We've talked about officers with bicycles. We've talked about public safety in and around the Capitol. So that's what's contained within that capital construction hearing. And again, the session will now start to focus more and more on funding since we start to get some of the policy bills out of the way, as you guys saw with these really quick deadlines that are going on. So I think the last kind of half of this legislative session is just a race and a total concentration on the funding aspect.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna just take one step back. So
Yes.
these 2 bills that we're talking about are the Christmas tree bills.
Yeah.
So it is all of the funding requests. It's not just Salem's funding requests. I just want to make sure everybody is
Correct.
getting that.
It's not a standalone bill. It's all part of a big.
Okay, thank you.
So
I'm sorry.
the letters of support are going to be, there's going to be a huge stack of letters of support because everyone is getting 2 funding priorities. And so it's going to be intense. And so our 2 funding priorities are in there as you discussed. And I think I sent the council an email update about Representative Mannix is taking on the airport funding request and Representative Anderson is taking on safe, clean, and healthy capital city. And so the safe, clean, and healthy capital city is 2.75 million. And then you mentioned the amount for the airport. And what we're trying to do is And I think it was your direction as a legislative committee, instead of payment in lieu of taxes, which felt sort of nebulous to some, very clear to us, but nebulous to some. What we've done instead is changed so that 2.75 million is about where we were talking anyway, and it happens to be delivering sustainable funding for safe, clean, and healthy, the initiative that you all started.
Right.
And it adds some community policing officers as well.
Fingers crossed for that one.
Yeah, and if it would benefit everyone, it is in our legislative policy statements, but if you would like to see the capital funding request, you know, the form that we have to fill out to move things, we can certainly shift that around as well. I don't have it on me, but I know exactly where it is. It's in my drive. It's kind of a wonky way to talk about a project, but it's the way we do to get in the bill. So.
No, that's fine. I was just looking for in my email where our latest, you know, that document that has our statement of positions. I was just hoping to see that again. So I'm sure it's very similar.
Yeah, it's oh wait, look at that.
An extra copy maybe?
No, I just have the one.
It's
But
okay.
you can see the scope of the
Okay.
ask.
Okay, great. That's fine. I don't want to slow down the entire meeting. I'll take a look at it later.
Okay.
I think I'm not sure at what point in time I wanted to bring this up today, but under our state session, but we don't know the fate of the transportation bill. I know that previously our legislative committee and our council had voted to support the transportation bill. I don't think it's feasible for us I want to be realistic. I don't think if that goes to the voters, I don't think it's going to pass. So I'm wondering whether it would make more sense for our committee to propose a new letter, you know, urging the legislature, like, okay, this is not going to work. We need to fund our transportation. 67% of our roads and and other things, transportation wise, are tied to this state funding mechanism, however you do it. I don't want us to be anchored to a bill that I think is doomed to fail. And so I'm wondering whether it would make more sense for our committee to talk about having a new letter saying, listen, is there any way you can come up with? I don't know how realistic it is, Justin, within the remaining 35-day session. Are they going to be able to come up with a funding alternative? Because I'm worried that if the bill goes to the voters as is, it'll fail. And then nobody gets transportation funding. The city doesn't, the counties don't, the state doesn't. And I'm just wondering whether it would make sense for us to send a letter saying, can you please find an alternative?
Just for Salem?
Well, we can only speak on behalf of us, Mayor, but I mean, I just don't see that bill is going to succeed. And I think it would be nice to just send some sort of letter encouraging them to come up with a more reasonable proposal that both parties can get on board with, that doesn't jeopardize our funding. I don't know what the League of Oregon Cities position is on this, but I wanted to float this for our consideration. And I'd love to hear Justin's thoughts before we go further, because you know what the fate is of that bill at this point better than I do. Of course, you don't have a crystal ball. I keep hoping you're going to bring one, but I mean, I just don't want us to be anchored to a bill that no longer makes sense.
Yeah, I think I think you're right on. The politics of it are, you put that in front of voters, it's increasing gas taxes, and frankly, I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Right.
Now, how you guys want to communicate that or how you want to message that, that's up to you as a council. As I always recommend to clients, don't ever be afraid or ashamed to ask for what you truly need. Now, the part about how can we all work together and how can we make this happen, that's great. And again, people need to know, you know, we've got, what's the number, 1,285 miles of roads. We've got deferred maintenance issues. We've got all these problems. We can't be shy about what issues we do have. But the reality is, politically, I just don't know the appetite for it. I know, you know, one side of the aisle is trying to get it to November. The other side, whether it fails in May or whether it fails in November, how that increases turnout amongst Republicans. How that will be used if it fails in May, if they do get it there. We've heard about some walkouts, frankly, with the history in Oregon. I mean, I think we have to be aware that people might just walk out.
Right.
I don't think the optics are great on that, for whoever walks out. That being said, it's also kind of a strategic maneuver, right? So I don't know how that falls into place. And then, some of my frustrations are, I know what we have as needs in this city. I know the problems that we face, but then the headlines are, let's try to make sure that the Moda Center is taken care of. And let's make sure, that we're talking $500-600 million set aside for these types of things. I understand there's ways to do that, but then you also have the politics. Frankly, are Oregonians going to get upset if 400 or 500 state workers are laid off?
Right.
I don't think so. So that's unfortunate because we all probably know somebody that works at ODOT. We all know the need that we have as a city for our infrastructure and our deferred maintenance when it comes to our streets. So you've got all these elements, and I know it's difficult, and I know we have to navigate that politically, but at the end of the day, we should never be ashamed to say, here's what we need and here's why we need it. And, from that perspective, something general, reframing the issue that says, hey, if we can be a part of the solution, we'd like to be, because on behalf of our constituents, these are things that we need to have
Yeah, something general.
in line that we can plan for. So something like that, again, that's up to you guys how you communicate and message that, but don't ever be ashamed to ask for what we need. But there is a lot of politics around it.
Right, that's why, and I don't want to politicize our position. I'm just, I just don't think it makes sense. The last official communication they received from Salem City Council was that we were in favor of this transportation bill. I'm not in favor of that bill, given what we've seen, how people responded to it. It's apparent to me that people are not given the affordability issues that our constituents are facing. I can't support that bill any longer, but rather than me, say that as an individual, I am inviting my peers to consider us issuing some sort of letter to the legislature. And obviously, legislative committee drafts the letter. We can, present it to council to see if they want to get on board with it. But I just think we should be utilizing that process, and we have to move quickly. Unfortunately, we weren't able to meet last week. I started raising concerns about the transportation bill with Courtney and Justin before the session even began. We're now in session. So if we're going to write a letter of some kind, articulating what our needs are and urging the legislature to come up with an alternative bill that doesn't draw the ire of people who are afraid of gas taxes when they also have to pay rent, buy groceries, pay medical bills. You'd have to write a very diplomatic and very generalized letter, but I still think it's a letter worth writing and also conveying what our transportation needs are. Because as you all know from our recent meeting with our CFO, our budget forecast, the transportation fund is going to run out of money in a few years. So I wanted to raise this. I know it's it's a complex, tricky, sensitive issue, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. So I'd love to hear what my fellow members of the committee think. Okay.
I'll jump in. Greetings. Thank you for sharing that, Councilor Nordike. I got my policy advisor hat on, and I don't believe that bill is going to go anywhere. I don't think we have the appetite for it, but I will support the letter. I just think the last 2+ weeks left, I think it's going to be a mad dash to the very end. And I just don't see the governor's office budging on anything. I mean, she's holding on by a thread in a variety of her bills. And with the transportation that basically it's on a lifeline, I don't think it's going to move. But I will support any letter that the council wants to present.
Councilor Gwynn?
And I agree with Dr. Brown. yeah, I concur.
My only concern, at least with the way it was proposed here, is that Salem presents as someone or a city more important than any other in the state when it comes to needs. And I would just want to be really careful about how the letter was crafted, that it doesn't leave behind 240 other cities.
Oh, that's not my intention there. Definitely not my intention. I'm not trying to put us first in line. No, not at all.
What was the 67% you spoke about?
That our transportation fund, 67% of it comes from the state. Am I correct, CFO?
I think that's about right.
About 70%, I think.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah. No, I'm Mayor, I'm not trying to put us ahead of the line. I don't know how other cities, whether they took a position on transportation bill or not. I'm just saying, I know that we have. So no, I'm not trying to say fund us first. That's not what I'm saying at all. So.
So we can craft a letter at your direction. We are in a bit of a pickle, given the timeline and the next council meeting. But we can certainly do that if it is a direction that the committee wants to give us.
It seems like there's support for a letter, based on Dr. Brown and Councilor Gwen.
You had asked about where the league was on this.
Yeah, I don't know that.
And the league has been vocal, and we contributed as staff to the development of the proposal. We were trying to make the very points you were just making about the importance of keeping Salem's transportation system whole while they're taking care of the state. And I don't know that there's been any movement yet. There were a couple rumors of things that would have been challenging, but I don't think we've seen anything. And so I think the league is still really involved and engaged. Can you confirm, Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the league continues to be engaged in addressing the need. The exact mechanism, is it this bill? Is it a, different version of this? Is the devil's in the details, right?
Right.
My understanding is that the expectation is that this will have to be a 2027 issue. And so I do represent the city on the League's Transportation Policy Advisory Committee. So I will be attending those meetings and, getting into more detail. Those actually start after the session is over, working towards the 2027 session.
My preference would be we wait for direction from the league, as the league speaks for everyone. And what their game plan is would be important to me. But maybe that's because I'm currently serving on their board, so I have a little bit of a kind of an inherent respect for how they see things and what they recommend. I personally would be interested in consulting with them before doing anything.
We don't have much time though. And I think we could potentially do both. We could have Courtney draft the letter, because that's going to take a little time, and, check in with the league simultaneously. But if we don't move quickly on this, the opportunity to submit any letter will be gone. I think it's possible for Julie to check in specifically on transportation issues, since she's already our advisor there. And in the meantime, that'll give Courtney a few days to send a letter around and get our input. Do we have a legislative committee meeting next week? I mean, perhaps she could get a draft to us by next week, where no decisions are being made. Nothing's going to be printed and mailed to the legislature tomorrow. But if we give her direction today, that gives her a week to get it queued up for us and to check in with the league simultaneously.
Yeah, Courtney, do you have time to take on something like this? And Julie, is it reasonable for you to take time to check with the league and all that?
I can definitely check in with the league. Yeah.
I know, Courtney, you're swamped.
Yes, but I can do it.
You can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I would just like to say, it's not every day we get to do creative writing like this. This is actually, I don't know, you are on the receiving end of most of the things that we write, which can sound like the Snoopy voice, I think. So these things are much more fun to do.
So glad I can empower you in this one.
So, as I understand it, we will have a letter for you in your packet next week. And if we agree with it, we will take it to the meeting on the 23rd, I think. No, is that right?
23rd, yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yes, I know.
and then Julie will have a report on where the league is. This is amenable solution. Sounds good to me. Excellent.
I'm not a fan of rushed jobs these days, so that would be, having a week to consider would be
Good. Excellent. Thank you. So transportation, we've covered. Would you all like to walk through some of the bills that we have prepared for your conversation today?
what kind of,
We are at 11:32. And 10 days away from the council meeting where the letter will be written. So we have a couple of bills that we are
Wait,
waiting.
Courtney,
Yes.
before you start, I'm sorry, I'm getting called out for a work thing. Linda, would you mind stepping in for me? I'm gonna have to leave. I'm sorry.
Yes, work happens.
Duty calls. Thank you, Counselor Gwen.
It does. So we have a couple bills for you. As Justin mentioned, there were quite a few that we were tracking. Some did not meet the first deadline. And these are the ones that we want to talk about. Jason, do you want to do Water Professionals Week really quick? That I think is already through the process.
It's through the House, right, Justin?
Correct?
Yeah.
I might even have some numbers here for you.
No, this is
57 yeses, 1 nay.
No, who's an A?
Some members vote no on everything and they're proud of it.
Kate.
Kate, yes.
Does not
Representative.
appreciate water professionals, so. Go figure.
That's the headline.
No, it's
It could be.
Water Professionals Appreciation Week is a nationwide recognition.
Wet blanket. I went there. Gotcha.
The work that our water professionals, engineers, operators, and water and sanitary services provide. And so this bill would just tag along with other national efforts to recognize the first week of October as Water Professionals Appreciation.
Seems like
So I wholeheartedly support them.
Seems like a great idea.
Water professional, yeah. Okay, so that's one. And then Jessica, you have something about preservation bonds, and I have a note to myself that it was voted out of committee and it's moving forward into the aforementioned Christmas tree bill, Senate Bill 5702. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, so this is we typically don't bring forth stuff like this, but we received an opinion from the Legislative Policy Office that general obligation bonds could in fact be used for preservation of affordable housing. So in the past, the general obligation bonds were used for production funding only, which you may know as the LIFT fund. So OHCS gets a lot of resources for production. Every session we're underfunded in our preservation ask, and that's because we're requesting the use of lottery-backed bonds, which is it's very competitive resource. General obligation bonds typically aren't as competitive. And so we've been working really hard to get the opinion from DOJ and then bring that opinion to the Legislative Policy Office, get them to concur that this legal opinion works. And they did that, in fact, at the beginning of the session. So we are asking for a $100 million designation to set up the hold fund. And the hold fund would be a committed fund for affordable housing preservation, something that we can depend on. Similarly to the queue we've been waiting in for a couple of years now for the senior housing preservation. This would be one of the tools in the toolbox to potentially move this forward. So we're very, very, very much advocating for this. I was able to present on that panel for the legislative committees prior to session and then again in session. And I've met with several legislators to basically help educate that this is something new because we found out a new use is possible. And so, yes, it is in the Senate Bill 5702, and I will be anxiously watching at 1 p.m. today because it was voted 12-1 or 12-0 out of committee. So everyone agreed. It was a great idea. So I hope they continue to agree. It's a great idea.
Madam Mayor,
Exciting.
if I may, Jessica or Josh, I mentioned the plan to try to save, the Blazers and that facility and try to do a long-term deal there. Is this separate when it comes to housing, or if we're talking about lottery obligation bonds, could some of that be gobbled up in this? And
We're
then
competing with the Moda Center.
So it's all being.
Yes, I was
Affordable housing.
I was very much told that if this dies, it will be because of the Moda Center.
Okay, that's all. I just want to get that on the table for people to understand. I mean, that's, again, I think everybody here loves the Blazers. Wouldn't it be nice to make sure we've got professional sports teams, but they're also some of the most politically controversial. Stadium funding, these types of things are political hot potatoes. So I just want to make sure council was aware that
Yes.
That
we're
feels
now
like-
competing for these funds.
That feels like something worth writing a letter about.
Freedom Housing Authority has submitted testimony supporting the use of federal obligation bonds for housing preservation. The Housing Alliance, Housing Oregon, all of our groups are fully in support. We charged the Capital One Housing Opportunity Day, and I've met with probably 11 legislators privately. Worked to meet with people on capital construction as well. The only person I could not get a meeting with was Gerard.
Dang, I saw him in the elevator.
Darn it. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, I want to make sure that everybody understood that when it gets in here, we're competing
You're
for
bringing
dollars.
that out there, Justin.
And again, for everybody out there, it's a Blazer fan. It's not like I'm not a Blazer fan, but we have other priorities in this state. I couldn't even name anybody on the Blazers anymore, but hey, who knows where the coach is, but anyway. All right, sorry about that question, but
Yes, no, it's
thank you.
I
guys.
can't either.
Okay, and then we kept House Bill 4085 about autonomous vehicles. We kept it on. It didn't make a deadline, but we suspect it will be a recurring theme. And so we just wanted to make you aware of the bill. We're solid on, no, we get to choose. Local governments get the power to choose, but you want to give the other side the more, you can be I'm the color commentary. You can, here's what's happening.
Yeah, so, this is a bill that is creating basically a state regulation or state framework for regulating autonomous vehicles such as the Waymos of the world. And it's been in the works, I think, for quite a while, but it does not give locals the ability to add any additional regulations or taxes or fees beyond what we might already have if we had some sort of business license or something like that. But that exclusion is something that we are opposed to. I believe the league is also opposed to that. And we expect that this will, likely come up again in 2027. And so we will continue to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to operate autonomous vehicles, I want to cut for sure. Not me personally, but no, I mean, they'll be using our roads just like everybody else, wear and tear like everybody else. So sense to me.
Yeah, and I listened to a little bit of the testimony because they did have a public hearing on it. The TNC operators, the Ubers and Lyfts of the world, they are very opposed to it. Obviously, the Waymos of the world are very supportive of this, so we will see how it evolves.
Do we receive any funding for the Lyft and Uber drivers of the world other than our share of state gas taxes?
I do not believe that we do, but Josh, do you happen to know?
Can you repeat the question?
I was just wondering, because we're talking about transportation funding, the Uber and Lyft drivers, I mean, does the city receive any revenue from that service being provided in the area other than if they gas up their car like everybody else?
Yeah, no additional revenue.
Okay,
I
I'm
was
just wondering.
I think it could be possible to do that, but we have not done that.
Maybe we should. Was anyone around when we were having this big conversation about licensing? Were you there?
About what? I'm sorry.
Licensing? I
Oh,
noticed
yes.
that there
Yes,
was,
it was
there was a lot of, I think it was motivated out of how we license taxis. And there was a concern about safety and licensing and I don't remember what happened to that.
Yeah, I would need to look into the details again, refresh my memory, but I'm pretty sure that we have pretty minimal regulations and revenue.
Something to think about, but certainly we don't want to cut out any opportunity to do something different with these.
Yeah, I mean, autonomous vehicles is a brave new world and I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I haven't reviewed the bill in detail. When I hear that cities would be automatically cut out of the regulation or potential fees, then of course that doesn't sound good to me. I know that's generally, we're not in favor of that. So anyway, but yeah, I don't want to plant my flag in the sand on this issue just yet, but I'm very curious. It seems like it's not going to happen this session for a reason you mentioned, but it's going to keep coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Something to put a pin in for next year then.
And it might even be something, maybe, Julie, we consider adapting our policy statements so that we have a way to combat that early and often when it continues to appear.
Right, and we should probably also go back and review our TNC regulations and licensing, because I think that if we had something that covered that, it could also cover, you know, the autonomous vehicles. It's just that we can't separate out the autonomous vehicles under this version of the legislation.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about a couple of Oregon Government Ethics Commission fixes or things that are in the works to try to make those, provide more guidance to how those are being implemented. Would you, Mark Weinstein, like to lead us through the food and beverage fix first, and then we can talk about where we are in all the amendment routes for the other?
So there was a work group between League of Oregon Cities, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. I'm not sure who else was at the table to deal with a variety of issues. The first of which was the food and beverage opinion that came out of the Oregon Government Ethics Commission that receiving food or beverages by a public body during a public meeting was a financial gain to public officials. So it was a gift. It had to be then looked at under our exemptions, either a gift or part of a compensation package. House Bill 4161 fixes this by basically saying that receiving food or beverages from a public body during a public meeting that's not use of office by a public official, and also raises the gift limit, I think, to $100 separate from that. So in essence, moving forward, if this bill passes, we wouldn't have to be putting food and beverage provisions into compensation packages. It could have the common sense approach of you can eat dinner at a city council meeting that's occurring at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night on a weeknight, and it not being an ethics violation. So that's 4161. League of Cities is supporting this and moving this forward. Any questions on that one?
I just want to be clear that while the state may have $100, our rule
Right.
is different. Our rule is 25. So
Yes.
No retirement gift above $25.
just, it's not,
Come on.
well, they
When
may
was the
have
last
100.
time we updated that? Was that rule set in 1970? I mean, come on, you didn't
If
do
you can
that.
select,
Some-
reflect the $25 limit, I assure you. Yes.
Except for the belt buckle, which I think is 25 years.
I'm just saying, I mean, we have some city employees who work their entire careers here and $25 gift limit retiring gifts, sad. Just saying.
Well,
Maybe
we can
do a
give them more,
GoFundMe or
but then they have to pay for it in taxes.
All right,
Thank you very much. I think that solves some of the challenges that we were having. The next part, though, is a little bit more complicated.
Complicated, nuance, above my head, all of those phrases fit. So the Oregon Government Ethics Commission has taken an exceptionally expansive view regarding public meetings, what constitutes a public meeting, specifically what is part of a deliberation toward a decision, what's included in that, and which then will cause public officials to run afoul of serial communications laws or meeting outside of a public meeting. The work group took on this to try and find some common ground to some amendments to the public meetings law that took a more common sense approach. I will put it to you this way. My understanding, I was not part of this work group. I just want to make it very clear that OGEC and the League of Oregon Cities had some fundamental differences as to where they needed to be. Specifically, as I understand it, the League of Oregon Cities and that side of the table want a very, very clear knowledge or intention element requirement, and OGEC is opposed to that. So 4177 is Representative Sosa's current, I guess we would call it compromise bill, for lack of a better term. It's my understanding that League of Cities is supporting this bill in this legislative session, looking forward to maybe doing some additional work on this issue as it goes forward. The biggest thing it does relevant to the work of the city is that it's gonna change the definition of deliberation to being that which is discussions that examine, weigh, or reflect upon the reasons for or against a decision, trying to bring it back to the actual decision-making process and not just things that are preliminary to it. And it also gives some very specific things that are outside of the deliberation process, which I put in bill review. Some other changes it makes are about the grievance process that happens before you get to a formal process with OGEC. It does expand the amount of time that a person has to file a grievance with a public body, but does away with some of the requirements as to what must be in the response, which was also concerning to the city, basically putting in a grievance response to the city's potential legal position and responding to something. That's kind of the heart of it. Any questions about that?
These will be up on Tuesday, so we'll get more information from those hearings.
Yeah, and I heard Nicole sent me an email, like, yes, both of them are
8 o'clock on Tuesday.
moving forward.
They're both down in rules. Seems like they want to do something with it. Why rules is important, those committees stay open the whole way.
And again, just to be clear, League of Cities is moving both of these forward at this time.
I don't think this is contemplated in this particular bill, so perhaps for the future, I'm wondering, obviously, you know, we here have all been caught up in these exceedingly broad definitions. Is there any process by which you can have an ethics violation eventually expunged from your record after, say, 10 years? I know that that's a thing in other contexts. In the criminal setting, that's possible for low-level offenses. But I'm just wondering, especially if people were found in violation under a version of the rules that will eventually be statutorily changed, assuming this passes, is there any mechanism for having the records cleared for people, a lot of people, not just members of this council, but for other elected officials who are caught up in these exceedingly broad interpretations of the rules. Is that something that can be contemplated by the work group in the future?
I'm not part of that work group. Probably a great discussion to have with League of Cities.
It's certainly something that we can work with the league. We can ask that question.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I will make sure we do.
Thank you.
So I think the last amendment was like yesterday. So this is the part where, you know, as Justin mentioned, these are in rules, so they are subject to change. And because of the pace, putting a letter of support or putting a, you know, and how it won't be for 10 days that the council would hear the letter and approve it. It's a question for me about whether you want to put forward support or you want to wait till next week to see how it's evolved over the course of the week. Sometimes I've noticed we can put in support or opposition for something and then the bill can be amended. And that might change how the city would feel about the letter. So, or about their support or opposition. So I just want to say that because we have quite a few bills on here. Some of these have already advanced and you might decide you want to go ahead and provide support, and some of these are still in flux.
I don't feel the same sense of urgency with this bill. I mean, I'm already assuming that, you know, there's only so much change you can make to a statutory scheme in a single session, especially a short session. So my question was intended, can we have that conversation later? I mean, to me, this is already a lot, right? This is already a potential paradigm shift in how OGEC treats cases moving forward. So I don't want to ask for too much right now. You guys, and again, I think that, you know, working with the work group, that's why I asked, what is the work group talking about? Is this something that and you already alluded to, there may be more changes coming in the next session. So I'm not suggesting we prioritize this immediately, but I do want us to be thinking both short-term and long-term.
Also, just so you are aware, we alluded to how many bills are active. We are watching quite a few other bills. There are always placeholder bills. And those we're mindful of, but we're not bringing forward because it's not static yet. It's not. But, so does that make sense? We'll continue to watch and maybe we'll come back with a report again on that bill next time.
Great.
The last one on here is affordable housing, and it is Senate Bill 1567. I can't read. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
We're very excited about this bill. This bill, we've been advocating for this work for a long time. This is basically allowing for mixed funding projects. And so where Oregon Housing and Community Services is typically capped at 60% area median income, this would allow developers like SHA to basically create a more robust pro forma that allows more area median income levels and allows those to be mixed up within a single development. So it'll give us more tools to try to make sure projects pencil. It will also be a benefit to residents who maybe want to access a property but are lower income, or maybe the location is great and, you know, whatever, but we can mix a whole variety of incomes. It just gives us a little bit more flexibility, and for preservation specifically where a project wasn't affordable initially, this will help us kind of play with how can we secure funding for these naturally affordable projects, which maybe were like closer to that moderate income level where we still need that income level, but there's really no mechanism right now to preserve that or to fund a project that has those varying income levels. So we look at this as a very big positive. And if you look at the bill sponsors, it's very bipartisan.
Yeah, we've got Mannix, Munoz, and Patterson all signed on as sponsors.
Would this be something that would also apply on a land trust?
or not?
I don't think they've really gotten to the rule making of this point, but right now the limitations of OHCS really stops at 60%. So this just brings another opportunity into the mix, and I'm sure the rules will be forthcoming for that. But I would imagine any funds that go out from this mixed funding mechanism would be included all under the umbrella.
Okay.
Questions?
Our primary question is going to be whether you want to advance positions in the packet on any of these, or if you want to hang tight and come back to them next week, because we don't have a council meeting that we're preparing for on Monday. So we can take a little bit more time. It's up to you.
I don't have any objections to the proposed policy positions on any of these. Yes to water professionals. Right? Yeah, and I think we need to do a big splashy appreciation week for sure, like maybe the water judge or something. Some things for counselors. For sure.
I think we get a good crowd.
It's stated on a public record, a public meeting that we propose dump tanks for counselors.
Any funding could go to support for wastewater management.
For that draconian $25 gift policy. I mean, they all seem fine to me, but how do the other committee members feel?
Would you like us to hold on House Bill 4177, which is the OGAC serial communication? Or do you want to go ahead and just adopt the position?
I mean,
It's a start.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
we're not done,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Okay, well,
And then
so
all that.
we will pull those bills into the report that council will be reviewing on the 23rd. All right,
Anything else, anybody? Counselor Brown?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. CSO Bush, the question I have, and I don't need an answer today, but I'm just curious. With the short session halfway through, has there been any discussion in regards to ICE deportation? Any bills?
I think there's a lot going on in that space, but I don't know personally where any of it is right this minute. Would you like us to have a more complete report? It will have another deadline pass, so we'll know more clearly about which things are moving. Would you like us to have a report on that next time?
Yes, I would. I mean, I'm looking at some bills here, but I don't want to talk about any of these if it's not, something that you've already prepared to share with us.
I think we're very interested to see what survives the deadlines. So we can definitely be prepared with a summary report on all that is still with us.
Okay. And one final question. It's in regards to Christmas tree bill. I think you had shared earlier that Anderson is currently leading that. It's a 2.75 million. Is that what you said?
Yes,
Yes.
and
Is-
letters of support are just drifting in.
Got it. So here's my question. I think I asked it last year, and I'll probably ask it the year before. But how optimistic, and maybe this is a question for the lobbyist, how optimistic are we to think that we could actually get funding for that during this short session? Are we 60-40? Are we 50-50? Like, how optimistic are we?
More optimistic than last year?
I am abundantly optimistic. I don't know how.
Me too.
And I appreciate people's optimism. I really do. So I can't really put a number on it, or I can't put any odds on it, but I've said this a bunch without offending anybody, Counselor Brown, but other than Representative Mannix and the minority party, we don't have a lot of experience within that building yet.
Right.
This
And-
is Justin just hedging his bets.
I know, and I hate to do that, but I love Courtney's optimism. We're not asking for as much as we did last cycle. That being said, we've got some real specific asks. I think we've got some good momentum in talking with the governor's office. They understand the need. We've built some narratives around the things that we've been through, what our folks go through, not just in terms of boots on the ground over there for rallies and protests, but the opportunity cost of what that, essentially costs us in scheduling and officers and everything. So, and again, we're approaching it with fire as well. So people all understand the need. We don't get any negative feedback from that. It's oftentimes though, we are reliant on voices within the caucus that represent us as a city. And, our fingers are crossed that it's rising to the level. And certainly with what's going on at the federal level and the amount of rallies and protests that we've seen in and around our complex, the Attorney General who helped us with, a little bit of an offset on State Street understands the need for safety and security in and around that building. So I think we've got some positive momentum going. That being said, I wish I could give you a 90-10 or a 67%. I just can't. And again, there's so many things descending upon Salem within the legislative timeframe in this compressed 35-day session that I hope it doesn't get lost. And we are competing for those dollars with many other municipalities and other interests as well. So I'm hopeful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone, for being here. There's nothing further. We are adjourned.
Next week. Everybody's on speed dating.
No doubt. All right. Kick some butt over there.